Hi. Let me go. I'll go in here. I'm Angela Swanner. So in order to keep us kind of on track and keeping on time, I wanted to go ahead and get through. Don't worry, I'm not doing the PowerPoint. I'm just doing the introduction. So I'm actually a divisional merchandise manager with JCPenney. And actually, I'm also a U of A alumni. But right now, I'm going to introduce Debra Pruent, who's going to come talk to you, and she really is probably the last speaker before break, and it's probably been, like an hour and 15 minutes since we've all eaten last, so I'm sure we're starving to go back to eat again. Debbie is actually the COO of a company called, I'm going to call them GFK, and she's going to explain to you what their real name is, because for the last 2 days I've been trying to learn how to say this, and let's just say my German, not so strong. So Debbie will go through what the real pronunciation is for that. But Debbie's actually responsible for the entire global analysis and what they call consumer experiences. So she has many years of experience in the entire market research industry, including previously before joining GSK. She actually worked with General Motors for 10 years. Debbie is inherently a mathematician, so I thought this was an interesting point. She has her bachelor degree in both mathematics and computer science from Wayne State University, as well as a master's in applied statistics. So yes, that's right, she's the one that threw the curve off for all the rest of us in those statistics classes. So even with that, though, we all have to cheer for her because she is an avid Detroit Red Wings fan, as everybody from the Midwest should be. So once again, it's my pleasure to introduce Miss Debra Pruent.
Yeah, Geek Alert. So also, when I saw that I was after Poppy, who is a great speaker, fellow New Yorker, and before the coffee break, I thought, how does this work? And also, I saw a lot of my content going by me yesterday, which I guess the good news is that those of us that are in this business kind of see the future in a similar way. So again, I'm delighted to be here. This is my first conference. I've learned a lot. And I was invited by a good friend, Marcia Klipsch, who is absolutely inspired by this program. I met her years ago traveling, and wherever we've traveled, we stop in. We were just in Egypt a couple of years ago. We stop in and we meet with the SIFE people, and we meet with students, and she's just really, really passionate. So it's great to be here, and it's great to be here with students, and I'll be talking to students later on today. The name of my presentation is How Emerging Technologies Are Shaping the Shopper's Path to Purchase. And we've been talking a lot about how technology is helping the shoppers, but it's also helping us on the research side understand this whole shopping experience. I'm from GFK. GFK is a very old and established market research company. It stands for Gesellschaft für Konsumforschung. This means society, and not company, that's Geschäft. It means Society for Consumer Research. And we actually have a very interesting background. We're German-based. I spend my time mostly between New York and Nuremberg, and also a lot in Asia. I run the global consumer insights business. And we are 60% owned by an academic foundation. So our company was started by a group of university professors in and around Nuremberg, Fraunhofer Institute, Max Planck Institute, the University of Nuremberg, and they were doing consulting, marketing and research consulting projects for clients. And at some point, it was in the early 40s actually, the company was started in the 30s, the society started in the 30s, and in the 40s, they had a big request from Henkel, a client, who wanted them to start a consumer panel. So a set of households that would track their purchases, report their purchases, et cetera. And this forced them to have to incorporate, because recruiting a panel and sending respondents, collecting data and privacy issues, all those kinds of things. And this is how the company was born. So we have this really, really strong academic legacy. And this helps tremendously. And mostly we're dealing with US business people here today, but imagine having a 60% shareholder who has no board seat. I'm a member of the management board, no board seat, no supervisory board seat, no requests. They get their dividend, and they get actually more than they can spend in chairing or supporting university chairs or doing some research. So they actually partner with us and deliver research for us. We had them partnered with Stanford University last year to do research in the neuroscience area. We have them partnered with MIT to do some media lab, media measurement kind of research. It's an ideal situation. We're the 4th largest market research company in the world. And so the other unique thing about us, and I see there's a lot of women in the room, a lot of women students, is that we are the only publicly traded company on the DAX in Germany that have 2 women on the board. So myself and actually our CFO, so it really is kind of the geek squad alert for women in this company. She also, she came from Siemens, and so we're the 2 women on the board. So I'm here today to give you kind of an empirical view of what's going on. We've heard a lot of really interesting stories, and I don't have, some of my stories are the same, but they're backed up with a little bit of data. And I'm going to refer to, one of the things that's nice about being a full-service research company is that we do research not only in the shopper insights area, but we also do research in branding and copy testing and new product development. And so we've got a really, really full picture of what's going on out there with brands, from new product development all the way through launching the brands, understanding customer loyalty, satisfaction, et cetera. So I'm going to be using data from 2 studies that are in the retail space, Future Buy. We've been running this for about 3 years, and it's a global, but it's just North America and Europe global, that is about shoppers' attitudes and behaviors. Also a study called Future Scope, which is a study among practitioners. So here's where we hear from you, the retailers and the manufacturers, about what's going on in the industry. And then one of our brands in our company is Roper. I don't know if anybody's heard of Roper, but Roper is a very, very long-term US brand that has been studying consumer trends and attitudes globally for about 30 years, but in the US for over 50 years. And then finally, I will take you through a little bit some really, really interesting work that we're doing with what we're calling our media efficiency panel. And this is where we take a consumer panel and we add a lot of extra things to it to help understand the whole consumer purchase process. So the key question that brought a lot of us to this conference is how do we better track the point of purchase across all the different channels and shopper touch points out there. And shopper marketing is something that I haven't heard talked about explicitly here at the conference, but obviously this is what we live and breathe. So very simple idea. So it's the manufacturers and the retailers coming together on behalf of consumers and shoppers. But obviously, if it wasn't so simple, we wouldn't need to have big conferences every year and a lot of work behind it. So there are some key challenges. And the first one is what gave rise to the field of shopper marketing, which really has only been in existence for under 10 years. And that is the shopper is not always the consumer. So that is our first challenge. Our second challenge, and you heard a lot of speakers talk about this, is that one size doesn't fit all. There's a lot of diversity out there. You heard Dave Calhoun yesterday talk about the diversity in the US, but of course this exists everywhere. And when you really think about it, a truly brilliant global company is a truly brilliant local company that uses its intelligence and its connections for global brands. So you really need to understand first what's going on locally in order to be able to translate globally. But you have to understand that one size doesn't fit all. And of course, we live in a world now of bricks and clicks, which is really opening up so many different paths to purchase. So it's not just a linear straight shot from planning through shopping and purchasing and experience. It's very, very complicated. And finally, the power base has expanded beyond the retailers and the manufacturers. So shopper marketing was about the manufacturers and the retailers collaborating. And now we've got these social information powerhouses. And they really need to be part of the collaboration equation. And so I'm not sure I was really hearing that throughout the conference. I mean, we talk a lot about Twitter and Facebook and social media sites, but I think one of the challenges is that the manufacturers and the retailers really have to partner with these sites for the benefit of the shoppers and the consumers. So one of the things that we've done at GfK, like any other big full-service research company, is really trying to get our arms around, what is the framework, what is the pathway to purchase, and as I said previously, we were thinking about it very linearly, so planning, shopping, purchasing, and experience. And now it's so very, very interconnected, and you don't go from one stage to the next in a linear fashion. You can backtrack, and all around you are all these various touch points that really are activating you in all these different ways. So it kind of reminds me, just looking at this picture here in front of me, it kind of reminds me of a Mobius strip, where it just sort of is continuous, and you can backtrack. And actually, I think I've just, for the first time, used differential geometry in market research, and my parents are going to be very happy because they were really wondering what I was going to do with this math degree, and obviously I was only a mathematician for a short number of years before I went over to business. But it's very, very complicated. And we no longer can really talk about what's the first moment of truth, the zero moment of truth, the first moment of truth, the second moment of truth. It doesn't quite make sense anymore. We have to come up with different ways to sort of understand what's going on. Which brings me, before I get to my next slide, we have a lot of data. I mean, we have a lot of data as a research company. Retailers, manufacturers have a lot of data. And we have data about how people plan and what sort of triggers their planning process. We have shopping, we have in-store data, nowadays, and then the world of technology, we have eye movement monitor data. We've got all kinds of shopping data. We've got purchasing data. You've got loyalty card data. And we've got all kinds of customer satisfaction and experience. And we've got, a lot of data. And you keep hearing this word, big data. I mean, how many people really know what big data is? So we keep hearing big data. What is all this about? And it's about the fact that there's all this data out there that exists, primary data, secondary data, all the data from social media that's coming in. And the trick is really to figure out how to use it, how to harness it, how to mine it. And it's not easy. There's not easy ways to connect up these data sets. You understand these things in sort of silos. You're not able to easily understand them in integrated ways. So that's a big challenge for my industry. We, like retailers, are going through big changes because of technology. And one of the things that we have to get our arms around is how to really mine this data. And it really does require science. So you need to understand how to do the right kind of modeling behind the scenes to be able to connect up all these big data sets. But in the meantime, the best way to sort of understand something as complicated as this new path to purchase is through a single source data set. So we have what we call our GfK Media Efficiency Panel. And it starts out with, we have this in a number of countries, and it starts out with a basic consumer panel, consumer tracking panel. So in the US, the consumer tracking panel business is co-owned by IRI and Nielsen. In many, many, many other parts of the world, GfK owns this business. And consumer tracking panels are those panels where households sign up and they basically have scanners and they keep track of every single purchase. So a lot of you, I'm sure, buy this kind of data, understand repeat purchasing and all that sort of thing. Now imagine if you can take a consumer panel, consumer household panel, and add some things to it. Like, for example, what if we also added some software to their fixed internet? And now we're able to track everything that they do on the internet, everything that they're exposed to in terms of advertising, the kind of searches that they do, the kind of websites that they visit. Now imagine if we could also add mobile to that. And we're actually tracking them, the same kind of information, they have a smartphone, what sites they're visiting, what advertising they're being exposed to. And the nice thing about mobile phones is that you can also track where they go. So with their permission, of course, it gets a little creepy at times, but you can really track people, and you can track where they're going. And you can also add to that things like TV monitoring. So you can either do it with set-top box, like we do in the US, or we happen to do it with sound matching. So we have a little device that people put next to their TV, and through sound matching, we can keep track of the shows that they're watching. So, and then, you know, on top of that, to get a more rounded, full picture of their media consumption, we can do some survey work to also, you know, track some other things. So then you start to really get a single source data set where you can really start to understand what people are doing, what, you know, kind of searches, what advertising exposure, and how that really plays out on the other end through their purchases. And so this is the kind of research that technology is enabling companies like mine to do, and it's necessary. We have all these big data sets, and yes, we'll finally get there to figuring out how to properly mine. But in the meantime, you know, these aren't huge samples. It's maybe 20,000 households or 30,000 households or maybe up to 50 in a given country. But it's still enough to start to understand how people are really using technology and being influenced by the advertising and the messages and the searches to ultimately make their purchases. We started this work with Google, of all people. And Google's a very big client of ours, and a lot of people, a lot of analysts, when I'm doing those kinds of meetings, ask me about whether or not Google is a threat to my business, the research business. And I say, no, actually, I don't think so at all, because yes, Google has a lot of data, but honestly, if you work with Google, and do we have any Google people in the room? No, but I'm saying the truth. So if you work with Google, they don't even understand how to mine their own data. And they understand that their data it's large, but you know, we can't always confuse large, the law of large numbers is not to be confused with, you know, representativeness and the ability to be able to project. So they are even sort of lost, and they say we can really only answer our own questions about 30% of the time with our own data. Their business isn't research anyways. Their business is advertising. So this is how they make their money, and you know, it's always best to focus on, you know, what you do best. But we started this kind of work with them because they have an interest in understanding the impact, the ROI of advertising on the internet and on mobile phones. One of the other sort of dilemmas in my industry right now is in media measurement. You know, media has always been purchased through currencies that are really about counting. So Nielsen counts how many people see TV shows, and that currency determines the price of advertising. My company owns the MRI brand, which is Nielsen for print, so for magazines and newspapers. But we now live in a world where we don't have a currency for the internet. And it's impossible right now. There's no good way to count. There are companies like ComScore that have very big panels, maybe even as large as 1 million, but the tails are so long on the internet that there isn't a good measurement. So sort of there's a whole paradigm shift that's happening in media measurement. And I think we're going to go away from counting and to things more like ROI models. So Google's interested in understanding the impact of internet advertising on purchases. But it turns out that once they helped us, because they helped to invest in a number of areas, a number of countries for us, once we got a number of these panels up and running, a lot of brands were really interested, Coca-Cola and Unilever and P&G, in understanding this path to purchase and understanding the different triggers, the different impact of different kinds of advertising, using the location base to do couponing, all these kinds of things. So I'm going to show you some work. So we did something, this is for a yogurt company, but we did something together with the IAB, the Interactive Advertising Bureau in the UK. There's also one in the US. And we were examining the impact of smartphones on the purchase journey from the trigger through to the research and purchase. So I'll show you just a quick video on it.
The Purchase Journey Map is a system created to visualize and explore exactly how a consumer arrived at a purchase. Take Jess, for example. Jess is sat at home one evening watching the TV and casually browsing the internet on her laptop. A Yeo Valley ad on the TV catches her attention, and she enjoys it so much she wants to show her husband. The ad finishes with a call to sing along on Facebook. This is the trigger for Jess's purchase journey. Searching on Facebook for the brand's page, she finds the advert in the video section and shows it to her husband. Jess, realizing she doesn't know much about their products, clicks on the info page. There she finds a list of products and a link to the Yeo Valley's main website. On the main site, she reads the product description of several products, which sound very appealing. She goes across to Tesco's website, where she checks out their prices. This marks the end of her research stage. Jess prefers to conduct her grocery shopping in store, so a couple of days later, whilst doing her weekly shop, she purchases some Yeo Valley yogurts. This is a simple example from trigger to purchase. However, other purchase journeys can be more complex, involving multiple products, more research activity, and the inclusion of other devices, such as smartphones or tablets, for research or purchases.
So that's just an example of how we're able to use this sort of single source data to better understand how people go through the various paths to purchase. So a lot of our work in this area, combined with some of these studies that I talked to you about earlier, the Roper study and the Future Buy study, has given rise to what we're calling the extreme shopper. And so I'd like to now spend the rest of my presentation talking about sort of this new norm that we've sort of profiled over the past 3 years. And I'm sure you'll recognize a lot of the attributes. So this extreme shopper is driven by two forces, and we've talked a lot about this over the past couple of days. So the economy and the fact that, it has been very, very difficult. People are, not as well off as they were. It's driving a lot more value, a lot more sensitivity around being able to discount and find values. And then on the other hand, technology. So internet everywhere, connectivity everywhere, explosion of smartphones and tablets. So the new shopper, and we learned this over and over again, is always connected. And always connected means that they're more in control. And control is a big, big, big part of this mindset. And the new shopper is using both online and offline at increasing rates. So we see more and more people doing sort of combination things, which really gives rise to the fact that, in the future, we really need to be thinking more and more about kind of hybrid tactics. And I thought it was interesting yesterday in one of the presentations to learn that, I'm not, day in and day out in the retail business, but it was interesting for me to learn that, a lot of stores don't have wireless access. And that's just such a simple thing that you can do to really, become part of this new ecosystem, because the hybrid is the way to go, is the way of the future. We talked previously about, the fact that online purchasing is growing and that it is going to become a very, very big business. In 2016, we're predicting, like everybody else, about 9%. And $327 billion. So really, really huge. But obviously, brick and mortar is still dominating a major part of the shares. And as we add mobile to the mix, then that too is changing the way that we shop and purchase. And we see more and more people using their mobile phones to shop, but we also see that is becoming, in and of itself, a shop. So your mobile phone as a physical store. And so the projections there are that in 2015, that a third of all shops, all purchases, will be done off mobile phones. And, mobile phones mean that we have a much, much more ability to be connected socially and through social media. And it really is creating a collaborative buying culture. There's just this constant exchange of information, you've got real-time feedback, and it's real trusted. So we did this really kind of fun, interesting study with Nokia a couple of years ago, and this was a quote from one of the respondents. My smartphone is my TV, my PC, it actually said my telly, I changed that for English, for American English. My TV, my PC, my diary, my scheduler, my phone, my email, my social networking provider, my pedometer, my calculator, my eBay mechanism, my grocery shopper, my Amazon access, my music player, my everything. It tells my 3-year-old niece bedtime stories, for goodness sakes. So we've got this real, functional connection. But the other part of the study that was fun was we did this day in the life of a smartphone. And Nokia wanted to understand uses of smartphones and connections of smartphone, how people were using them, what the connection was. And one of the things that we asked people to do was to write a eulogy for their smartphone. So this is just a couple of different examples. I'll let you read those. But the point is there's this real emotional connection. And this trust and this connection is something that is a lot different from what you have with your fixed internet at home. We all we're happy to get internet, but nobody has that same connection that you do to your mobile phone. So this is really going to change the landscape dramatically. So we have this emergence of a new shopper profile, somebody that is, we're calling it these extreme shoppers, somebody that's connected, competitive, and optimistic. And it's really a mindset, and we'll talk in a few minutes about sort of the challenges of it being just a mindset, but it's really a mindset out there. So we'll talk about who are they, what are they doing, and how do we engage them to win. So to start off, who are they? In Europe, there are more extreme shoppers. And as I said before, we've been doing this study for 3 years. It is growing. In the US a few years ago, I think it was 31%, and now we're up to 37%. So it's not growing exponentially. But more than a third of shoppers in the US and in Europe have this mindset of being extreme shoppers. The explosion of smartphones and tablets, that's only going to accelerate this whole phenomena. So I guess, to maybe contradict myself, it's only grown 5 or 6 percentage points in the last few years, but we probably will see some strong growth in the next few years. Extreme shoppers, they're innovative, they're proactive, and again, they're in control, and it's all about control and efficiency, and high numbers for both the US and Europe, slightly higher in Europe. And they're more optimistic about their future as well. 1 in 3 feel they're better off than a year ago. 1 in 2 believe they'll be better off in the next 12 months. So even though the economy is one of the drivers behind sort of this whole shopping mindset, as a group, they are more optimistic than others. And this is what's interesting. When we look across demographic groups, yes, there's a little bit of a skew, maybe toward younger people, and that sort of, I guess, maybe fits with the technology. There aren't large skews. And so this is actually a challenge. And it's a challenge not only for extreme shoppers, but it's a challenge just across the industry in trying to be able to target. And so targeting heretofore was, or in old days, was all about demographic targeting. And in order to buy media, you have to be able to define your target into things that advertising audiences or magazines can buy against or target against. And how do you target against a mindset? How do you buy media against a need state or a psychology? And so this is one of the things that is going to be a real challenge for us. And I think yesterday when I was listening to Dave's presentation on Hispanics and multicultural, he was making the point that he doesn't see targeting happening in television. And of course not, because I think that at the end of the day, brands are buying against the things that they can buy against. And they are trying to buy media for the masses. And what we're going to see in the future is really kind of a bimodal distribution. Either you're going to be able to do very, very targeted, one-on-one advertising and understand exactly who you're delivering that targeted advertising to, or in the broader channels, you're going to have to buy against, the big mindsets that cut across all the demographies. So that's going to be one of the challenges that we're going to be faced as an industry. So what are they doing? Well, we know through all the presentations at the conference that the extreme shoppers are using the web to research, to shop, and to purchase products. And they're visiting online sites at increasing rates, primarily general shopping sites, promotional deal sites, using search engines a lot, and that's going to continue. And that leads to the question of, is online shopping replacing physical stores? And I think we had a couple of presentations that touched on these topics deeply. Personally, I think the answer is no, but I think there's a great quote from Roy O'Mara, who actually a great futurist that passed away a few years ago. But the quote is, "We tend to overestimate the effect of a technology in the short run and underestimate the effect in the long run." So I think in the short run, there's a lot of panic and a lot of, oh my gosh, retail's going away, stores are going away, everything's moving online. That's overestimated. But of course, in the long run, we will see more and more things moving online. But I think we'll also, at the end of the day, see more of a hybrid. Poppy talked about experience and emotional connections. And I think this is where, the pendulum's going to swing back. And yes, the technology provides a lot of, convenience and ease. But at the end of the day, you want an experience, you want an emotional connection. And so I do think personally that the physical stores are here to stay. So yes, they're here to stay, but we are seeing a channel migration and a retailer migration. And in the short term, we are seeing that head toward more of the discounters. And this, also is in line with the mindset of the extreme shopper. Loyalty is an issue. So this drive for value means that they're less loyal. And it also means that, they're doing more price comparison, more, circular checking, more usage of coupons. And all these things, of course, are challenges for retailers. We got to figure out better ways to make customers loyal and to get out of this kind of cycle that drives down profits. There are different expectations between the formats. So when people are online, extreme shoppers are online, it is more about ease, and quickness. And when they're in the store, it's more about the experience. It's more about, the atmosphere. So how do we engage them to win? So here's where, we're first talking to, this is from our future scope study, where we talk to practitioners, so manufacturers, retailers, and we've asked them about, how they think digital and mobile technologies are going to change the landscape in the next few years. And of course, high percentages, 77% say dramatically will change shopping behavior, 61% say that, this is empowering shoppers to the detriment of retailers and manufacturers, so that's a challenge. And, in order to become a leader in the shopper marketing area, 60% feel that, you really need to be a leader in digital and mobile. And of course, we saw a lot of presentations where, the retailers are all over it. And, omnichannel, I guess, being the extreme, if you got a lot of money, and can really do everything. But, everyone's moving in this direction. So I want to wrap up with some implications for this new mindset, these extreme shoppers. So first of all, we have to figure out how to harness this, this value-seeking behavior so that it doesn't drive down our prices or our margins. Second, it's the whole area of digital engagement, and we have to learn how to use that to redefine the path to purchase. And then the third one is, the fact that retail needs to follow the shopper and deliver unique experience, so this whole idea of hybrid. And we'll just wrap up at the end with, sort of overall the challenges and opportunities. So when we're thinking about, the value side of the equation, we definitely have to figure out ways to combat this whole deal hunting culture of the extreme shopper. And we have to figure out how to balance and how to create other avenues of value rather than just price. So you heard that they were about convenience, they're about control, and they're also about experience. So you don't have to, have all the money in the world and all the, all the things or all the ability to be able to deliver everything. But we have to look for, ways to make their experience simple, to make it convenient, to make it unique. And, I know that, many of us are still in the late afternoon spending, $4 or $5 on a cup of coffee, so it can be done. And those are the kinds of things that, we have to be able to do as retailers to combat this, kind of mindset of just always driving for price. Also in that same vein, we need to be able to shield the price comparison and this whole showrooming effect. And one of the ways, and I think we were talking about that earlier with PetSmart, is special products and own label items, things that can't be easily compared from other stores. And then this whole idea of next generation loyalty programs, and I think this is really, really important. That we need to find better ways and more creative ways. And this is something that, where the consultants and as researchers, we help our clients also in trying to one-on-one come up with different ways to help them do this. But this is where, talking to customers and really coming up with, different ways to engage your customers and to keep them coming back is really, really important. In terms of digital engagement, I think that if you're going to be in retail, you need to get out in front of mobile users. More and more, you'll see that we're able to use location-based advertising. That's coming. We're only a few years away to be able to deliver, and we can even do it now, but you have to have permission, and that there's still a lot of issues in the technology. But being able to deliver location-based advertising, so you need to get on board and need to start understanding that. You need to really work with the social media sites. You need to do things like, Banana Republic, we worked with them, and to give a discount to people that liked their preview collection. So there are different things that you can do that are simple, that aren't all the way to omnichannel, to be able to connect digitally. And then, of course, you have to have a mobile site that's designed for mobile. The biggest frustration that I have when I'm trying to use my own mobile phone is, kind of like going around and trying to see a site that wasn't designed for mobile. So simple thing, but very, very important. And then also, optimizing websites to entice and to be efficient, engaging shoppers as brand ambassadors, building relationships post-purchase. So after somebody purchases, sending a message, making that connection. I know that Macy's does do that quite a bit because I shop there. And then gaming, the whole idea of using apps and to build your brand and to build your retail brand. And then finally, the whole idea of hybrid models, really dominating in the future. So coming up with innovating ways of integrating digital and physical shopping worlds. How many people are familiar with the Tesco virtual world in Korea, in Seoul. Isn't that amazing? So if you haven't experienced it, definitely check it out on, I guess, YouTube. It's got to be somewhere. But what they have is in the subways, and unfortunately we couldn't do this in New York because we don't get wireless in the subways, but in the subways, the big wall space is set up as a Tesco store. And it's a virtual, shelves with all the products. So you're waiting for the subway, and it's quite a wait for the subway in Seoul. You get out your mobile phone, you go over to the wall, you select some orange juice, you select some meat, whatever you want, and boom, 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 checkout on your mobile phone. When you get home, okay, in Seoul you might have a half-hour to an hour commute, the delivery is there. So they've combined a virtual, so you can obviously go to a Tesco store, but they've combined, you're just waiting around on the subway, you got nothing to do. And here you are, and it's unbelievable. And very, very, it's simple. The technology behind it, I'm sure, is a bit more complex. And the logistics, because obviously, somebody has to be delivering, they have to have delivery set up, but it's really, really unique. And those kinds of ideas, in spaces where people gather and have downtime, can be really, really powerful. So this idea of also having virtual shops in physical environments, and really making use of that. So if you can't afford brick and mortar, you can have this virtual shop. So fast fix reinvention. So being able to reinvent your store, reimagine your store. As tastes change, as seasons change, so making the experience different over and over again. So anthropology is obviously good at this. So making you want to come back over and over again. Retail pause places. So places where people can go and think about shopping, engage, use their mobile phones, just reflect. Have fun, socialize, and really weave that into the whole retail experience. And of course, in New York, we have lots and lots of pop-up retail everywhere. It's becoming very, very popular. My office is in a place called Chelsea Market, which is a market on the first floor. The offices are above. And it's bakeries and all kinds of things. But we also have some big spaces. And it seems like every couple of months, it's a whole different collection of pop-up retail. And some of it is retail that you would find in other places in the city, and some of it is just independent designers or craftspeople or photography or whatever. I was there a couple weeks ago, and now we have pop-up yoga. So we have like a yoga class, and in a small retail site. So that's becoming very, very popular as well. So pop-up retail combined with sort of the virtual pop-up retail could also be an interesting idea going forward. So, at the end of the day, the shopper is empowered, and technology is not going away. It's here to stay. We have to figure out, how to use it. But, also at the end of the day, it is about fulfilling an emotional need. And so we can't lose sight of the fact that, shoppers are people, they want experience, they want this emotional connection. And so we have this extreme shopper manifesto that we've come up with through our work. And it's really about, as a shopper, know me, engage me, provide information, give me good value for my money, and it doesn't have to be price. Make it easy for me, keep it fresh, keep it live, keep it changing. No bad surprises, entertain me, engage me, and make me, at the end of the day, look good or smart. So with that, I'm between the coffee break, but I'll take a few questions if we have any. Thank you.
Why is it that the US seems to be behind Europe in mobile technology?
Well, because I think, when I say Europe, it's also Central Eastern Europe and places that didn't really have good fixed landlines. And so they leapfrogged us. And so they just went from, from basically nothing, especially in rural areas, to mobile phones. Same thing in Latin America. Everyone, I mean, the penetration of internet and mobile phones in Latin America is way higher than the US because they were able to, kind of leapfrog. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, thank you.